Hey, what's up? It's Pat again, and welcome to video 4 of this podcasting tutorial. At this point, you should have your MP3 file already exported and tagged and ready to go. So what do you do with it? Where do you put it? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let me go ahead and draw something for you on the whiteboard. Okay, so to help you understand how this whole podcasting thing works, why we need to host our media files on a server outside of our own website server, and basically how to take that MP3 file we just created in that last video and syndicate it to all the different places we need to syndicate it to. I'm going to draw this helpful diagram that's hopefully going to help you understand exactly how all this works, and it starts with your website. So you need some sort of web presence in order to serve a podcast, and let's just imagine this is your website here. Maybe you already have a website, maybe not. If not, then I'm going to show you some of your different options in just a second. Now on your website, you might have things like blog posts. You might have pages of some kind or multiple pages of different things. And of course, now that we're adding a podcast onto your site, you're going to have podcast episodes. And I'll represent that with this little player button here, which I'll reference in just a second. Now, of course, to have a website, you need to host that website somewhere, some web host of some kind. And this is where the data is stored that serves your website. Now, there's different options for your web host. You can go the free option, which is with services like WordPress.com, Blogger.com, Tumblr.com. Those are places you can go to freely create websites where you can host your podcast for free. That's awesome. Now, there's also the popular place like BlogTalkRadio and other similar sites which provide the website for you where you can host your show. So BlogTalkRadio, and also that's good for syndicating a lot of your content too, since they're connected to all those things already. And of course, there's the self-hosted option where you're paying a small fee every month to host your own website, basically. So let me go through each of these options really quick and the pros and cons of each. Now, the pro for going the free route is obviously it's free, but that's basically the only good thing about it because you actually give up a lot of control by going the free route. You give up a lot of control over the design and look of your website, the feel of it, the first impression that people have when they go to your site, because when you have your podcast, you're telling people on your podcast to come back to your website, and if you give up a lot of control of what your website looks like, that's just bad. I mean, for WordPress.com specifically, you also give up the option to include advertisements on your site, to make money through affiliate marketing. So, really all those reasons I wouldn't use WordPress.com or any sort of the free options out there. Now, there's BlogTalkRadio, which is great, like I said, because it's pretty much just plug and play. You just take your MP3 file and you host it on BlogTalkRadio. They have the website already there for you, everything's set up. But there's a couple things here also where you're giving up control. One, your content. They're going to add what they call buffers in front and behind your content, little branding things, maybe advertisements. So potentially before even people listen to your content for the first time, they're going to hear some advertisements and BlogTalkRadio branding stuff, which is not a good thing. You want to control exactly what people listen to. Also, the website that your show is hosted on, I mean, the only thing you can control on that is pretty much your icon or your little artwork that represents your show, and that's it. Everything else on the website is Blog Talk Radio's, and for that reason, I wouldn't use Blog Talk Radio as well. I would definitely go the self-hosted route. Why? Because you have total control over everything: what your site looks like, how people experience it, what goes on it. You can make money from your site if you wanted to, and also you own and control all of that content. So there's no chance of your site dying and then losing everything because you have all of it. Hopefully you back everything up. But for example, if you were on Blog Talk Radio and they died, everything would be gone. Everything would be gone. So you want to go the self-hosted route. For me, I recommend Bluehost.com to set up your website, and I'll have a helpful video for you underneath this video. I'll link to it. It'll help you create your WordPress blog on your Bluehost site in under 5 minutes, really. And you use that blog, that WordPress blog, on Bluehost or any sort of host that you want to. I mean, that's just the one I use and recommend. It's really easy to set up. So if you want to go through my affiliate link and help me out a little bit, you can go to smartpassiveincome.com/Bluehost. Again, you don't have to. There's no additional cost to you, but I do earn a commission if you go through that. And if you do go through that, thank you so much. And if you need some support, even if you don't go through that link, just let me know, ask, and I will do my best to help you out. So that's your hosting options. Now, When it comes to your MP3 file, we have your MP3 file here that you just created in your last video. It's awesome. It's great. It's ready to go. We have to put it on a server somewhere. Now, a lot of you might think that the best place to put it is right here on your web host. You have that space already. It's going to serve, your text and your blog posts and everything. You might as well serve your large media files there as well. Well, what happens when people play your media from either your own website or from places that it's syndicated to, like iTunes? It's going to tap into the bandwidth of your web host. So what happens? The experience that people have on your website, it's just going to slow down your website, and it's going to slow down the people who have it listening to your show, and it's just not good. Because sometimes, more likely than not, many people are going to be listening to your MP3 file at the same time, especially right when you come out with an episode. I mean, how many times have you heard of people being featured on places like YouTube or Reddit or Dig or, StumbleUpon, and then all of a sudden their site dies because they're getting so much traffic? That happened because they were getting so much bandwidth. The web host was using too much bandwidth at the same time. And MP3s, they're rather large files, so they're going to eat up a lot of bandwidth at the same time. So what do? You want to host your MP3 file on a separate server that is just for the media. This is your specific media host, and I'll give you a specific one in a second, or some of the options at least. And so what happens here, you put your MP3 file on your media host, not your web host. And so what happens is when people play your podcast from your website, it actually plays from your media host instead of your web host. And iTunes will pull from your media host and the link for the MP3 file that comes off your media host, not your web host. Your web host and your media host are separate. So hypothetically speaking, you could have like 1 million people listening to your show, and it wouldn't affect the bandwidth of your web host. I mean, it probably would a little bit, just because you would tell people on your podcast to come to your website, and that direct traffic would suck up some of that bandwidth. But a lot of people can listen to your show, and that directly is not going to affect the experience people have on your website. And these media hosts are fine-tuned and built to serve media files, so they're going to have a better experience as well. So what are some specific different media hosts that you can choose from? Well, there is, of course, the famous Amazon S3, which a lot of people use. But, I don't like using that because I've gotten surprised by some really large bills. They charge per gig, and it's like, I don't even know the price. It's like 0.0018 cents per gig, but, that adds up. And the more people you have listening, the more money you're going to pay. I mean, that's a good problem to have, when you have a lot of people listening, but you never know. I mean, you could be hit with a rather large bill and not even know it. I use Libsyn, Libsyn.com, and they have flat fees, and I'll go over to that website in a second when I show you how I use it. But I pay $15 a month. There's also a $5 a month plan, but $15 a month for publishing 3 to 4 episodes a month. Plenty of space, and I always know what the price is going to be, so it's more easily able to fit in my budget, or I'm more easily able to predict how much it's going to cost. So Libsyn.com, and please use the coupon code SPI. If you're going to go to Libsyn.com, you'll get a discount through Libsyn. So going back to this diagram here, I'm actually going to move this over and shrink it down a bit, because we're going to talk about feeds a little bit, and I want to share sort of how this all ties together with how these podcast episodes are syndicated to different places. So this is sort of what happens. Your website has what's called a feed. If you have a WordPress site, this happens automatically. It's done for you. If you have a static site, you might have to do this automatically and create your own feed. But anyways, your feed has enclosed the content that you have on your website. Depending on what you set it at, it might have the latest 10 posts that you've written, which may or may not include podcast episodes. Now, what happens is the feed takes the content on your site and structures it in a way that makes it easier for other things to read the content on your site. So, for example, if someone subscribes to your feed, they might read it in their RSS readers. Someone who subscribes to your feed with an RSS reader will, every time you update your content, it'll update in the feed, and then it'll update in their RSS reader. That's how you get someone to subscribe and read your content automatically without them having to come to your site. Your content goes to them. Same thing actually happens with iTunes and in your podcast. Now, with iTunes specifically, it reads your feed and checks every single post that you have to see if there's an enclosed MP3 file in there. And I'll show you how to do that in a later video. But it's really simple. It just looks to see if there's an MP3 file in it. If there is, it's going to update the directory in iTunes with that particular show. And it's going to know to include that information on the show name, the show title, and all that stuff, because it knows what's in this file as the tag that we set up earlier in the last video. Same thing with Stitcher and other podcasting directories, Stitcher, BlackBerry, Zune. Again, they all read your feed. You're not actually uploading files to iTunes or to Stitcher. That's why it's so cool and so automatic. And after you set this up the first time, all you have to do is keep pumping content onto your site. And every time, your feed updates with something with an MP3 file, it knows to update everything where you've already syndicated your podcast episode and your blog posts. So really, that's exactly how all this works. And in the next video, we're going to talk specifically about how to set up your feed. That's in video number 5. But for the rest of video 4, since we're talking about hosting, we're going to talk about media hosts, again, specifically with Libsyn.com. And again, coupon code SPI to get a discount there. So let's go ahead and go over to Libsyn.com. I'll show you how it's set up, and I'm actually going to upload session 49 of the Smart Passive Income podcast for you and show you the link to that is given to us afterwards, which we're going to put on our blog, which is going to be read by our feed and read by every place that is already syndicating my podcast. So let's go ahead and go to Libsyn.com. Okay, so here we are at Libsyn.com. That's Libsyn.com. Before I log in and show you how I upload episode 49, I'm going to go to plans and pricing really quick and just show you some of the options. You can get 50 megabytes per month for $5 a month. I'm on this plan here, the Classic 250, for $15 a month. That's plenty for the number of episodes I do. I mean, typically most of the episodes I do are between 50 and 70 megabytes in size, so 3 to 4 episodes a month, which is my frequency, typically, usually less actually, is the Classic 250 is plenty, and I love this because it's a flat fee. There's no contract. I can go up and down in plans at any time if I need to, and it's great. And what happens is at the end of every month, that whatever I uploaded within that month clears out of that 250, and I get a brand new 250 to work with. It's almost like a cell phone plan, I guess. Now, I'm going to log in. And before I get to uploading that episode, I want to just share one more thing I love about Libsyn. It does pretty good at keeping track of stats. So on the dashboard here, I get a snapshot of all-time downloads, 2.15 million, number of downloads for the last couple months. If I go to statistics, it'll actually show me some more information. Nice little graph here, but below I can get data for every single episode. So I can see within the last 3 months how many people have downloaded each episode. I can see a total. Check out this one, SPI 046. That's episode 46. That one was downloaded about 60,000 times compared to the few before that, which aren't even close to that. I mean, that was a very popular episode. You should listen to it if you want to. But then it'll get some more data down here, like countries, regions, and things like that. Obviously, here you can see United States, 1.36 million, makes up most of my listeners. Now, I'm going to return to the dashboard and go through the process just like I am uploading an episode, which I actually am doing. I'm uploading episode 49 for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Publish, and I'm not going to publish a new podcast episode. They have their own sort of podcast marketplace here where you can share your, where you can create titles and descriptions and stuff. But, I'm basically just using Libsyn for serving my file, for hosting my file. That's it, just for storage. So I'm just going to go click on this button here, File for Download Only. Then I'm going to go to my hard drive, and there's SPI 049.mp3 right there. And then it's in queue right now. I made this mistake. I thought it was uploading already, and then I go and check, and it hadn't even started yet. You have to click Publish. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It's going to take about 5 minutes, so I'm going to fast forward in time for you. But you'll see a little progress bar show up here at the top, and it'll tell you when it's done. All right, and that's it. So that file is now uploaded onto Libsyn's server, our media host, and you can actually press this play button here to preview the file and make sure it's the right file, make sure it sounds right, and just check it out just for a second.
This is a Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 49. 49? Are you serious?
All right. All right, cool. That works. It's session 49. I know because I said 49 at the beginning of the show. And the most important thing here is this link, this direct download URL. This link right here. This is the link that you're going to include in your blog posts or your podcast episodes that you publish on your blog. This is the one that's going to be read by the feed, the one that's going to be picked up by every place that's syndicated, iTunes, everywhere else. That's the most important thing. So write that down. I have it, it's the same every time. It just changes the number. So I just copy paste from the previous podcast episode. But when you're starting out, make sure you copy paste that exactly how it is, because you're going to need that. Don't worry about this permalink URL or enclosure files or anything like that. You want this file name here, all the way from the beginning all the way to the end where it says .mp3. And that's it. So congratulations, you've uploaded your MP3 file to your media host. And in the next video, we're going to go over feeds and how to set that up properly. And then we get to submit to iTunes and all the other places we're going to syndicate to. So well done for getting to this point. We're almost there, but we still have some important things to go over. So just keep going. If you've gone through all these videos straight since the beginning, take a break. Go on a walk, get a drink of water, come back, and we'll finish up.